Big thanks go out to Taiwa for supporting today's video via Patreon. Prosper Tonebound versus Bilbo, birthday celebrant, Edward Kenway, and Esika. Just played a game with this and we didn't do too well on the lands, and once again start with a one lander into multiple lands. We can make a decent number of swamps with that as well, 4 Cabal coffers, so it's not great, but hopefully we'll keep hold of black market connections. We are first in the turn order, getting to another land. I've already seen more lands on turn 0 than I saw in the entirety of the last game. So we'll go for a surveyor land. You'll probably see this game first, but when the other game does land, I'm sure there'll be commenters saying, oh, you need to run more lands. Well, sometimes you just have bad luck. And sometimes you have bad luck the other way and start getting flooded. We'll bin that mountain. Can't believe the contrast here. Esika throws out a Mosswalk Bridge. Elvish Mystic for Bilbo. And I did mean to build this at some point, but just never really had the chance. Think it would be a really interesting Soul Sisters deck. Yeah, I'm well and truly getting flooded now. Let's see, we can just go for another tap land, I think. Building up our mountain count at least. The Grixis player just holding up blue mana, so I'm hoping that he doesn't counter our enchantment. See, another elf. Spells and abilities your opponent's control can't cause you to sack permanents, which is... I don't think it's relevant against us, but could be against the other black player. Alright, in now Feshni might do some work later in the game. Just play any land here. I suppose I should have got down the swamp really. And we will try to play black market connections and see what happens. If there's a negate held up, then we want it out of their hand anyway. They do pass priority though. The first potential vehicle, Cosima, God of the Voyage. And we see a sack outlet for the Soul Sisters player, so we'll assume that they're going for probably aristocrats as opposed to Soul Sisters. Maybe they'll do both. So we do manage to have our black market connections survive, which is good. We draw into Marionette Master, and I'm going to start off with all 3 and probably not make any more shapeshifters after this. Okay, there's a Dorothy Voidwalker. Yeah, that would be good to get down. I think I'd rather get Prosper going though, so I'll play the swamp this time. And throw down the commander. Noteworthy, there is a Field of the Dead over here as well. They're a few turns away from it, thankfully. So we'll pass at that. Still with a full grip, we get to exile the top card at the end of the turn with our commander. And of course, we exile a land off the top with that, which we will be able to play next turn. Bounty of Luxor for the 5-colour deck. At the beginning of your first main phase, remove all flood counters from it. If none were removed this way, put 1 on and add 3 mana. And Cosima is triggering for the first time here, and so do decide to exile it. Whenever a land enters, they can put a voyage counter on it, and just storing that up for card draw basically by the looks of it. So it's Goggles of Night after that. Whenever the equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, scry 1 and draw. Only 2 to equip. Not sure I've seen this one before, but that's not a bad effect for only 2 mana, or 4 mana I suppose. Just seeing another tap land from the Abzan player. There is an Ignite the Future, which we're going to need more mana with really. So black market connections, we will just go for the top 2 abilities. Losing goes 3 life. Okay, a Plague might be worth doing. We can start exiling with that, and then that will set us up to get down now Feshni next turn, and we can start doubling up things that we cast from exile maybe. So maybe it's the Plague and the Dorothy Voidwalker this turn. Play the land from exile, and that triggers our commander for another treasure. We'd have 4 mana left up. If we wanted to go Ignite the Future, we do have until our next turn to play them, but I think we want to get some cards out of our hand while we're here with cards in hand, and this is a pretty slow one, so while the game's going slow we need to take advantage really, and we'll get down the Voidwalker as well. The Voidwalker will switch off death triggers, which potentially hurts this player over here with his aristocrats that we assume he's going to go after. It will potentially allow us to cast a spell from exile as well. So with that we'll go through to attacks. Let's just spread the damage here. I'll go at the 5-colour player with the commander. In fact, I'll do that with both, because this player's missing land seemingly. Then exiling with the Prosper again, we see a Vandal Blast. So that pretty much pays for itself next turn. If we just do that for 1 mana, we might as well, because we're just going to lose it otherwise, so we could blow this up with it. Going to put a counter on that, and that is Tamio's Journal. At the beginning of your upkeep, investigate, and you can sack 3 clues to tutor. Manages to get into a land this time, so triggers the Exiled Legend. Pirate's Pillage will make a couple of treasure and draw 2 cards. Decided to discard a Belligerent. Arcane Signet played for Bilbo into the first Soul Sister we've been expecting, the Soul Warden. 3 cards left in hand over there. And then the drain begins. Kambal, Console of Allocation is a really good one. So let's see what we can exile off Plarg and Nasseri here. We see here a Cultivator's Caravan. That is a Devastation Tide I'm not bothered about. And a Dam. I mean, we can use that as spot removal at least. We'll give the choice over to the middle player. I don't think it really matters. Okay, we've got the Beseech the Mirror here as well. So in that case, it's Dam onto the Kambal. Or we could take the sack outlet away from him. But I'll do Kambal. And we'll go a bargain onto Beseech the Mirror. And we'll sacrifice the Shapeshifter in order to do that. So we're getting drained here, but yeah, this is why we want to get rid of Kambal really, because 4 life to that when we've got black market connections in play isn't good. Okay, so that has that player scoop, of course it does. So that removes the Dam, but we were pointed at their stuff anyway. Making a treasure token, Beseech the Mirror, will allow us to tutor something into play if we go for something small enough. And so with that, why don't we just make it the Alila? There's Wild Magic Sorcerer as well. It should be cool. We're not going to cascade into anything all that decent, but Wild Magic Sorcerer, maybe we go for Ignite the Future. Alright, so casting that from exile off Beseech the Mirror allows us into a token from the commander. Haven't even gone through the draw step yet. Alright, into Urborg when we've got Cabal Coffers is excellent. Going to fix the black mana of Esika, but hopefully that won't matter. And let's just go for a treasure now, because we're potentially getting into too many cards and losing too much life. So Windmill Slam the Urborg, ready for Cabal Coffers next turn hopefully. Do we just play Nelfeshni? Because we've got 2 targets for Vandal Blast then, let's do that. Playing out all of our creatures into a board wipe, but we'll at least get to see what the deck wants to do. So point at the Tamio's Journal, pay a red mana, which makes us a treasure token. Now Feshni will make a copy of the Vandal Blast, and we'll point that at the equipment. So we could sack the Voidwalker here and grab something of our opponent's, but I don't think there's anything we're really all that bothered about. Maybe the goggles would be good, but I think we're just going to swing in here. Could also hold up the Guff Rewrites History. Might just go for the Ignite the Future this turn, just to make use of that mana. So I'll swing everything into the right now, try and keep my opponents from quitting, because this guy might feel as though he's being ganged up on. So I'm not necessarily going to make optimal plays when it comes to attacks and stuff. So we'll play Ignite the Future. Like I said, not necessarily going to get anything off it for this turn. Can definitely play them next turn, can't we? Yeah, until end of next turn. And that shows us a land for next turn. We've got Imperial Recruiter and a Slow Theatre of Horrors. So as we thought, not going to be able to do anything here, but that's probably our next turn sorted. So pass at that, see if we see a board wipe. We'll exile off the top with Prosper at the end of the turn as well, another land for us. Going to get some additional mana here thanks to the Bounty of Luxor. A Quilled Great Worm is not a board wipe. When a creature you control deals combat damage during your turn, put that many plus counters on it. They need 10 power on this in order to cheat the thing out, so they're going to need another big creature yet. Still not sure what the tactic is here on this deck. We did leave the treasure alone over here, so there we go. There's the board wipe we were fully expecting. So we will, of course, put our commander in the command zone. And then plays a land into Cosima again, so gets that into play. I think he only drew 1 card off that, 6 in hand at the moment. And there is a Sword of Fortune Frontier, which will have protection from a lot of our creatures. So let's see how much we can do here. Mayhem Devil is good. Let's take a bit more damage this time to draw another card, because we're going to start to run out of cards in hand that are non-land if we don't keep playing things from exile, and now that we've lost our commander that might start to happen. Alright, Chaos Warp is good to get into. So I think we forego the lands that are in exile for the sake of Cabal Coffers, because we've got plenty available to us. and that offers us 7 black mana. So I think we want to go Imperial Recruiter, and we could use the Recruiter to go for Valky. Yeah, that could be worth doing. I would like to get down Prosper again though, so maybe leave Valky for a turn. Could have had 2 Imperial Recruiters into play if we'd kept our now Feshni in play, but unfortunately didn't manage to do that. So we've got Reckless Fireweaver to deal damage, Facebreaker, Marionette Apprentice is good with the Obnixilis because it triggers that quite often. Lelia is really good as well. Academy Manufactor to make lots of tokens is good with the, where are we? Inspiring Statuary, but I think we will go for Valky to get down the Tybalt next turn. So let's go for our commander again. At which point we'll be able to cast this from exile, the Theatre of Horrors. So I suppose what I should have done there is gone for Prosper first. We would have made a treasure to the Imperial Recruiter being cast. So I'm missing out on a treasure here, which does mean we could have held up Guff and the Chaos Warp, but not to worry. I think it's a reasonably slow game anyway, so we'll leave it at that and assume that we're about to take a hit from this thing. Exile with Prosper at the end of the turn, a Commune with Lava. Bit too early for that I think, although we do have a lot of mana available now. Transmutation Font creates a blood token, a clue token, or a food token. And with that they make a clue, and then sacking the clue to draw a card. It looks as though they're eager to tutor something straight into play, and it is an artifact, which means our chaos effects onto this to keep them from tutoring might just get them straight into the artifact that they're aiming for, so the odds of that aren't great, but they are there. Urabrask is going to have our stuff come in tapped and give all his stuff haste. That does mean he can't equip the sword up though. I think I would have equipped this and swung in first and tried to get into some land. You probably still could have afforded this. Alright, so we got out of that reasonably unscathed I think, although our opponents are setting up. Theatre of Horrors exiles off the top. A Sol Ring we should be able to get out. And that gains us mana in more ways than one. A Demonic Tutor as well. And then it is Black Market Connections. We just go for a treasure this turn. Alright, so what to do here? I think we definitely want to deal damage first so that we can play that Sol Ring, so we'll go to the left. And it's probably a good idea to hold up the instants like I didn't do last turn, so that we can make them waste mana equipping the sword. Right, so with that we can play the Sol Ring, and that's 1 mana, traded up to 2 mana, and then 3 mana with the treasure token. Then why don't we go straight in for the Tybalt Cosmic Imposter. And with that entering play, we can exile the top card of each player's library. So there we see a Portal to Phyrexia, I dare say is ours, although Fel the Profane could be ours as well. And a Malcolm Keen-Eyed Navigator for more treasure, I don't mind. Portal is probably going to be a good thing to go for if we can afford it. I think we can just about. This might make our opponent scoop is the problem. So create a treasure token for casting that from exile. This is owned by the 5 colour player. He's not playing it against us at least, but we might be able to start seeing some of our good creatures enter play again. The cards exiled with Tybalt, we've got the ability to play them indefinitely thanks to the emblems, so we can hold on to these. Let's just play the Tainted Peaks and pass. Do we want to make use of the Demonic Tutor? I've no idea what we want to go for with that, so I'll just pass. Exile another card with Prosper. The Commune with Lava will go down. And we get access to another Planeswalker in Chandra. Esika coming down, so not playing Prismatic Bridge. Court of Vantress played after that. Still not sure what his tactic is here, but becomes the Monarch. Activates the Font and makes a clue token and goes straight through to the end of the turn to draw up to 6 in hand. Impulsive Pilferer, continuing the treasure theme. Have to give props to my opponents for not scooping up on this one. I'm just thinking with Tybalt we could go for exiling the sword in order to give protection from green and then get straight through to this player and steal the monarchy away. That's something we could go for next turn, and then we'd have the equipment as well. My problem with those kind of plays is that not only does it tend to make players scoop when you steal their cards, but also they of course take their cards with them, so it's a bit of a waste of an action. The commander into play for the first time cares about seeing assassins, pirates or vehicles. So there is a pirate in play in the Impulsive Pilferer, but unable to swing in, so none of them are tapped at the moment. Alright, so with the portal, I think it would be good to get down the Urabrask at some point, but I think instead we want the, I was going to say the Nalfeshni, but maybe the Wild Mage Sorcerer will be better for Cascade. We only get one Cascade, but I'll go for that. Maybe we'll get something big off the Theatre of Horrors. Underneath there is a land, so not too worried about that. Can we even play that? Yeah, you can play lands and cast spells with it, that's good. And here we see a Blood-Soaked Insight, which we'll be able to get a discount on at some point. I'm not sure that we're that bothered about it here. Just a treasure. So protection from green could be useful onto the Prosper for like Beast Within and stuff, but I think I'd rather just put it onto the Imperial Recruiter, and then if they want to keep us off the effects of this, then they have to blow up a useless creature. So let's go for Tybalt, minus down on the sword. That kills two birds with one stone. They can't necessarily get through to us, and we get to cast a spell here. Do we want to go for something else first? Because this will be the first spell that we cast from exile. I'll go for Chandra, Torch of Defiance. Toughness on that is 5, so we won't be able to use Chandra to blow it up. I'll tap down Cabal Coffers before we've made an additional land and hope that doesn't matter, because I can't be bothered working everything out. So we Cascade, because it's the first spell cast from exile, which allows us into Zorn, making double the treasure, so that will see the Prosper that's about to resolve, and makes a treasure itself, ironically, so maybe it's going to be worth going for the Hasty Dragon, the Goldspan Dragon with this, so that we can get double the mana. That'll make it easier to swing in with that equipment as well. So yeah, we might need additional mana from the Chandra. I'll just go for the Tutor now. Grab ourselves the Goldspan Dragon. Noteworthy that Pro Red will protect our commander from Blasphemous Acts as well, which we do have in the deck, so that might be worth having on just for that. Near enough made use of all our Cabal Coffers mana, so that's good. Let's play the sword now, creating a treasure token. So maybe it's worth getting down Mayhem Devil as well before we start cracking those treasure. Obviously exiling the top cards is good in this deck as well, which is another part of the reason I decided to go for it. Play the Mayhem Devil, and that way we'll be able to put a damage onto the commander and then -4 onto it from Chandra, or it's -3 to deal 4 damage. Let's equip, put the damage on the commander. We'll do the Chandra thing after, because I don't want my opponent to scoop in response while we've got control of his sword. Sword can still go onto the Recruiter, and that is allowed to be equipped. So now we'll go through to attacks. And it's noteworthy that we could further buff the Marionette Master with the sword as well and start cracking a bunch of treasure, so we're getting to a point where we want to use that. We will spread the damage, make a treasure with Goldspan Dragon. And so stealing the Monarchy from our opponent, we get to trigger the Sword of Forge and Frontier as well, exiling the top 2. And there we see a couple of lands, so we've got a land underneath here, and we've got the basics. I think I'll go for the basics this late in the game. Although, have we already played a land? I can't remember. Play the mountain, because we don't have a basic mountain. Makes a treasure. And yeah, we can play the swamp as well, so go for that. And we are getting double the treasure, of course, thanks to the zone that we got into previously. Okay, so we dealt 3 plus 4 is 7, so we get the full discount on this. So I suppose we might as well just go for it for the sake of doing something fun. The 1 damage from Mayhem Devil can go onto the Esika. Maybe we'll be able to crack enough treasure in order to fully get rid of that. Just 3 more it'll take. Okay, so now we see Coma, the World Eater, and a couple of lands. Do we just go for Coma? That'll be a fun one. It'll mean cracking a lot of treasure as well. So 3 treasures cracked, and the land tapped down as well, so that is the lightning bolt that we need to get rid of Esika. Create another treasure thanks to casting Coma from exile. Then with the floating mana, I think we're going to stop soon. We might as well go for Malcolm. Makes a treasure and pings. I'll just ping this player over here. And if we've got this board state intact next turn, I'm definitely getting down the Marionette Master and dealing a lot of damage to my opponents. Let's equip the sword onto Prosper to give protection from green and red. Ping the 5 colour player with Mayhem Devil. And then we want to -3 on Chandra, gets rid of the commander over here, takes it down to 1 loyalty. And I think we can leave it there. We've got Fell the Profane held up, so that can pretty much pay for itself with our commander Zorn and Goldspan Dragon. Could have carried on and gone for Ignite the Future as well, being flashed back, but I think we're doing alright here. We are now the Monarch, so we draw at the end and we exile the top card. Clue token cracked, sees a token go down, so Mayhem Devil pings him. Ideally you'd have something like the Basilisk Collar equipped to this, but we're not really playing around Mayhem Devil specifically. But that would give lifelink and death touch to that and could ping any creature out of play. Draw into Rakdos Signet and exile a Lightning Greaves, which we can't play at the end step. So Court of Vantress going to trigger without him being the Monarch. Choose another target enchantment or artifact, and you can have this become a copy of it. Decides to turn it into a copy of our Sol Ring. Bounty of Luxor gets a counter. Chromatic Orrery is probably worth pointing the Go Free Rights History Act. And then it is Wrath of God. So I don't think there's really anything we can do about that. We know why our opponent's playing it out though. Yeah, we'll leave it there. We can reanimate the Goldspan Dragon next turn if we want to. So the Impulsive Pilferer dies. Prosper goes back to the command zone again. Just calculating this, it's 3 plus counters I think on this. Yeah, so that'll be 4 plus 2 is 6 power, and then 6 times 5, 9 is 54 damage to everyone, so should be able to win next turn hopefully. Court of Embereth. We do have access to haste thanks to the Lightning Greaves, and we can reanimate a haster next turn. Tapping down the Transmutation Font again. Draws up to 6 at the end of the turn. Alright, that's odd. The Grixis player just passing through his turn, so decided to hold on to the spot removal. Portal to Phyrexia will take the Goldspan Dragon again. And then we exile the top card with the Theatre, so should be able to deal damage this turn. And underneath that we see a Feed the Swarm. I'm half tempted to see what he's aiming for here. He's got all the mana and nothing to do with it apparently, even with 6 cards in hand, but I don't know, maybe the Grixis player can interfere, but we'll force him to. Draw into a Blasphemous Act of our own with the protection from red available to us. Let's draw and make a treasure. I suppose I could have made a token there as well to equip the Lightning Greaves onto, but I don't think that'll matter. Just thinking in case the Goldspan goes down. We draw into our own portal to Phyrexia. So let's play the Marionette Master. Or actually I'll go for Prosper first. Making 10 mana with the Cabal Coffers this time, and haven't made a land yet. Priority held up by Edward. Does have 7 mana held up for a Cyclonic Rift, so again this would explain why our opponents are actually playing this out. Let's just try to land Marionette Master. Okay, that is allowed in, so it might already be too late for our opponents, even if he does have the Cyclonic Rift, because we can just crack treasure in response. So now it's 4 times 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 treasure. So that's 40 damage to everyone. Let's put the sword on there as well to speed things along. Play Lightning Greaves. Crack a treasure for 2 mana to do it. And that is instantly replaced by a treasure that will tap for 2 mana. Marionette Master. Doesn't matter, we'll just point it at the Grixis player and try and get him to interact. That's going to be 6 damage to him thanks to the buff. Haste and Shroud equipped onto the Master. Let's exile the top card with Chandra, see if there's anything interesting. And it's currently asking if I want to cast it. I don't know where the thing is. Yeah, I've no idea. I'll just have to say no. I don't know where it is. Was it just showing us an ancient tomb? Yeah, whatever. Cast a Rakdos Signet. And now it looks as though our opponent has seen what's going on, but it's too late now. If he has Rift, he would have wanted to play it before the Master hits play. So that's a sequencing error that is going to cost him the game. Because we can just crack these in response. We'll make as much different mana as we can. In fact, we can just remove Cyclonic Rift from the stack by taking out this player. We only have to hit him with 3 treasure now, thanks to the big buff on the Master. Might have had us in a tricky spot if he'd gone for the Rift sooner, although we could have floated a bunch of mana and rebuilt a lot of this board anyway. So that player goes down, and the Rift goes down with him. And we've got 6 mana floating. So let's exile the top card of each player's library with Tybalt, see what we get into. That is an Urza's Saga and a Terror of the Peaks. That should speed things along. Play the Terror, make a treasure. And then it's just a case of cracking treasure here. We have lost the sword, so we're only dealing 4 damage. But we've got exactly 5 treasure left here, and we've got attacks to make yet as well. So we always had exactly enough as it happens. So yeah, our opponent sees the writing on the wall and decides to scoop it up. I appreciate my opponents playing that out, although it seems as though they were doing so because they each had a board wipe, but I'll show gratitude regardless. I'm glad that we got a full one here pretty much. Last time I built Prosper, I think it was a treasure-based deck. This is more of a exile the top card, impulse draw type list, and I think I prefer this one a lot actually. We had a lot of cards in hand and in exile to choose from, as well as all the mana from the treasure, so Prosper, an incredible commander, as we all know already. Hopefully you enjoyed it as well. Massive thank you to the patrons for their support of the channel as well. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.